Welcome to XReality podcast. I'm the host, Dominic Wu, and beside me is my guest, Larry Zhang. Hi, Larry. Could you share a little bit about your background with us?
Hello, Dominic. Hello, everybody. My name is Larry. I am a composer, sound designer, and technologist. I'm working mostly in the immersive media. So, what that really means is I help studios, companies, and creative teams to figure out how sound should feel in their experiences, whether that's video games, video, virtual reality projects, or something that happened in the physical immersive space. Working on projects like VR games, The Price of Freedom, and immersive venues such as Beyond Van Gogh, A Life in Letters, 29 Rooms, where audio plays a huge role in shaping how people emotionally connect with the stories and the immersive space. Right now, I'm working as audio directors on the Midnight Stream at Denver Immersive Repertory Theater that focus on really about bridging live theater experience with immersive and interactive design, kind of like bring a video game like sense of engagements into an in-person theater experience. So the audience not just watching the story, but they feel like they are part of the story.
Wow. So you mentioned that you do some game, right? Game audio sound, and then bridge out to more like the immersive and then live theater experience. So, what's
Yes.
the difference between 2D game, for example, not really 2D game, but PC game sound design versus the spatial 360 sound design? What's the difference?
I would say for the traditional video game design approaches for the audio, it's mostly because you're still going through like the player will going through the experience by a screen, like 2D screen. So they are experiencing the experience through a monitor. While as for the virtual reality experience, it's immersive. So they are actually inside the space themselves. They are part of the experience and part of the environment. So the approach of the audio has to be more immersive in the focusing on the environmental sound details as well as all the details, the objects that have in around the environments that the player are able to interact with and expecting to have any kind of sound feedback that close to our real life experience.
Yeah. So, for example, like I also do Unity development. I
Mhm.
noticed that in 2D game, you can just put the player, right? Your sound source. You just put on the player because or anywhere because it just have like a because of the hardware device. It just no matter how good you put, right? It's always from your computer. There's a sound box, right? But in
Right.
spatial, it's more like a you can put your sound source in front, in the back, in the right, in the left, and those can be the audio cue for people. For example, like, oh, where should I go? I don't know what's next because sometimes people will get lost. And some if you hear like, wow, there's a sound from over there, and people's attention will be grabbed from some different directions. So I find out that those like immersive experience are very, very interesting. And you also mentioned that environmental sound. Can you elaborate? Like, for example, like what's environmental ambient sound versus like a more like a 2D game?
Um. So for the 2D games, or maybe just you're talking about like more traditional video games in terms of like console games or PC games, there are still some of the three elements. Like the RPG game, they are still 3D walking around. So you still do have that kind of sense of creating like a spatial audio elements in those games. So you can place the audio source in one of the objects, maybe it's behind you, then kind of remind you to turn around, or they'll create a kind of like a sonic space for that virtual world, whether it's in like a screen kind of displays or it's in virtual reality. But in virtual reality, I have to say that it's even more intimate because you're experiencing it with a first person's perspective, right? So in that sense, your orientation, your space, or your direction is very important for you to for the audience to experience that virtual world. So in virtual environmental sound in the virtual reality experience, I think it's important to have a sense of like depths or the implementations of this like environmental sounds, for example, like the room tone of the space or the uh like the things that happens directly around you that may need to be uh designed in more of the detail. So the placement is important. So like kind of just create kind of like a sound capsule for people to actually walk around and feel that they are actually part of it instead of just away from it, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow. So like for example, like for VR, right? You need to be more detailed because people are actually living in it. I remember before I interviewed one of the VR developer, he said that if let's say if you design a mobile app or desktop app, if one pixel, if there's a square and it's very pixelated, or it's a box there, it's a very pixelated box. It's
Right.
fine because it's far from there, right? And it's on the screen. But let's say if it's in VR and it's right in front of you and it's pixelated, you will feel very, very uncomfortable. So
Yeah,
the
absolutely. Yeah.
uncomfortable level, yeah, it's very different. For example, like sometimes when I watch like YouTube video, if the sound quality is bad, I
Mhm.
can bear it. But let's
Right.
say if you are in the VR space, um, if there's a latency, if there's like the sound quality, there are a lot of things like your noise. You don't feel it's clean sound. You just feel uncomfortable. So that uncomfortable will be like a hundred, 1,000 times and make you physically uncomfortable. Unlike like a very distant 2D screen based device.
And we're also talking about those all the objects in the virtual world that you can interact with. For example, if we have a virtual table a table in the virtual world and there's like a say a cup on the table, and if you pick it up and drop it on the floor, if the duration process doesn't really provide the sound feedback that you feel more intuitive with,
Mm.
then immediately your brain will tell you this role is like very plastic, it's very fake, because there are so many details we have to pay attention to, like how are we going to grab the interact with the the cup? Are we going to grab it, or are you going to just no, click on it, or and how strong of the collision force you are going to drop it on the floor? Those are the details that if we don't handle it properly and just have a very single layered sound feedback, it will definitely make the players or the audience subconsciously feel like this is not actually live up to their expectation that they experience in their real life experience. So it definitely will make the level of immersion decrease tremendously.
Yeah, and I heard one director when I was in art center. I remember one of my classmates. He majored in film. He
Yeah.
mentioned he said that uh, the 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 soundtrack or the background music or the sound is
Yeah.
the soul of the film. So, for example, if we watch, just visually, right, we don't feel anything, right? It's just like a visual. No matter how good it is, it's just you couldn't really have any connections with it. But if you add sound and you start feeling like emotional connect, and somehow your brain will recall that lyrics, and that lyrics will bring you back to that memory. So sound is like a very, I would say, like the soul, right? The soul without like any language form. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I definitely agree with that. It's like music, it audio is half of the experience. A lot of film director they mentioned that many times, and music is a great way to kind of navigate the audience emotional flow in different kind of level strategies and a different type of ways. And we're talking about, for example, like the movie How to Train Your Dragons, or
mm,
I just talk about maybe Game of Thrones. and there definitely have some realistic dragons flying around in the scene, but we have to keep that in mind. Like those creatures does not really exist in our world. Like nobody know how they sound like. It's actually a human, a bunch of talent people kind of just put everything together and create that lifelike dragon's sound to make the audience think those things are actually living creatures right in front of our eyes. So definitely audio plays a huge role to provide the soul and the emotion to the content.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And also right now you see like for example, like yesterday, a few days ago, I was creating my course trailer because I teach Unity game development and I
Yeah.
have my students. The final project is called turning public domain literature into interactive game. My student was more like a 3D modeling, like a 3D modeler and artist. They are not that into sound, so we use like a Suno. We use
Right.
11 Labs. I mean, I am also a heavy user for Suno, even though long time ago, I was born in Taiwan,
Oh
so
yeah.
of course every Asian kids knows one or two instrument for some reason. So yeah, so I learned piano in the past. But the interesting thing is that um, it's very hard when I do the description and put everything on Suno in Suno. I know
Right.
right now it's very, very powerful and they have the new version and force you to upgrade. But it's just very hard to cut or like you just feel like, wow, it's so hard to customize just by text prompt.
Mm.
I know it can solve, for example, like all my students use all the tools, like it's free and it's kind of achieve like a 80-90%. It's not perfect, but since there's no budget, so it's really good. How
Right.
do you see these types of trend that everybody currently right now is using um, like AI tools to trying to do some low budget things and which
Yeah.
is still pretty good. How do you feel threat or do you feel like it's actually a tools? Yeah, a good
Oh,
tool.
so like first off, I'm also from Taiwan.
Yeah.
Just, but yeah, like before we jump into the creative sides of using AI as tools to create music, I think it's important to give a bit of context. Like right now, as of late 2025, AI music space is still it's still debatable, I say, because there's like ongoing lawsuits involving like companies like Suno, so UDO, and they will see they are actually having some lawsuits, and we're just see there are some agreements between those companies and major labels companies like Universal Studios and Warner Brothers Studios. Uh, but there are still a lot that's being not being settled. So my personal sense is like I like the technology. I think the technology itself is very impressive, but the business models and ethics still need a lot of conversations going on. So my bottom line is that artists who have always have the right to decide whether their work is used for model training, and if they have their consent, they should have their own fair compensation. But with that premise in place, I do think that AI can be a very useful tool, especially in terms of like speed and communication. For me, AI really helps accelerate some of the early stage of my creative pipeline. For example, it helps to spark some ideas for me, and it also generates some quick references that can help me to communicate concept more efficiently with and it more effectively with the clients. Like for example, if I want to pitch an idea that makes say punk rock style of music with traditional Chinese instruments, like finding the perfect reference tracks can actually be challenging and difficult and time consuming. So instead of spending hours searching through the libraries and trying to explain what I have in my head, I just pretty much can use audio AI to generate a rough references that capture exactly what I have in my mind. That kind of save a lot of time to help everybody to be on the same page, um, in a more faster kind of fashion. And but the decision making part is still has to be stay human. I think that's essential for like human arts to continue to survive and thrive. So human supervision is absolutely necessary to make sure that we are the steering ship, and AI can help move things faster. But but human need to be the one who decide where we are going. So back to the scenario that you provided, is like I think AI can be a good tools for them to explore what they are trying to do or what they wanted to do, but still are lacking of the skill sets to accomplish it by themselves. But it can be a training wheel for them to get more sense, like get more knowledge for them to understand what they are looking for. And in the future, they are able to collaborate with other people who actually know how to make it happen and communicate their needs more efficiently and get the result.
Wow, yeah, I think AI really speed up the professional composers. And
Absolutely, yes.
yeah, and as far as I know, because I also learned piano in the past, I learned like a Yamaha, so it's like a 6 years. So
Yeah.
it's like I just realized that music is burning a lot of money because all the instruments are extremely expensive. So that's why I chose the path of more art because the
Yeah.
instrument is cheaper.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you see, like a AI right now is like, oh, you can text prompt and erase the bar, right? And how do you see the traditional way of teaching like a music theory? Do you think like the new generation, what types of education that need to be changed, or you still think that oh, those like a theories are so important? Like, what do you see the training need to change, or you think should stay classic? Yeah.
I think the training part itself still need to have some in order to use those AI tool instead of being used by them. I think it's important that you know what you are getting. Like you have to be the core. Like you have to be in the driving seat, telling the AI what you want to achieve. It's not like just giving up your creativities or your ideas and hand it to AI to make it solve it for you. I think that's important. Uh, in terms of the music education, I think it's still quite essential to have the foundations of like music theories, or at least you have to learn or listen to a lot of different type of music that has been created from the past to get the sense of what type of music style is that and their attitudes and their essence. And learning that with that knowledge in head, that you can really use it. Like those are the equipments that you have within you. So with those tools you have, it's easier for you to navigate yourself in terms of like what type of things you want to achieve in the future. Like maybe you don't really have to learn all the instruments in the world to be able to compose that music, but you as a conductor, like you are the one who's taking control of all the materials, so you know what you need and you go for what you need, and the AI will be the tools for you to achieve that in a faster fashion.
Yeah, recently I download a game called Manifesto, which is
Mhm.
Conductor,
Yeah.
the game. And I find out it's so fun. I learn a lot. What do you see those types of like gamify? And I
Yeah.
also saw like for example when you play guitar, there are a lot of like dots. When you play piano, I know like when I learn piano, it's
Yeah.
like a, really boring notes, right? And you are forced to read all this. And if you are wrong, it's like there's right or wrong or something. It's not fun. But it's like once you memorize all those, you can close your eyes and you play it, right?
Yeah.
And you enjoy it. But I was thinking about what do you see those like electronic things interfere that music learning? Because I was trying like some, you saw like the thing coming up is like a dance revolution thing,
Right.
and you need to hit it, right? And there's some points, right? What do you see those types of like fun education? Because when I was doing that, I don't enjoy it. I
Yeah.
just wanna have a higher score. I feel like the entire music playing is like switching the feeling. It's like I wanna beat up the game versus I wanna enjoy the lyrics because once you focus on trying to get higher score, you kind of lose the sense of immersing your music. What do you see these types of like gamify training?
There are, yeah, different experience that just kind of targeting different aspects of this, this kind of experience. I have a friend, they were developing this AI experience that basically you can just put on, they'll be similar to like the Guitar Hero or something. They just put it on the keyboards, and you'll just being guided which key you should press on the keyboard, like to finish a music piece. And during the process, there'll be some like feedbacks. Like so, when if you press the right notes, there'll be like maybe flower glowing, and then just indicating you're doing something right. So I think it's a pretty good training wheel for people who just starting to learn the instrument. So I also learned the piano as a kid. Definitely go through that painful, boring stage. It's like, oh, I don't know what to do this. And I think it's very good to have this like more gamification so that you will feel more rewarding, so more like a sense of accomplishment when you are doing something right. There'll be some visual cues, or there'll be some like feedback for you to reinforce your behavior, or just know you're doing something right, and then make the whole process more fun. And when that training wheel got rid of when you get rid of that training wheel, you actually be able to, play this music by yourself, and then the process is not as painful as before the traditional way. But yeah, I think it's a good like enhanced experience to help people to learn things in a more pleasant way.
Yeah, for example, like when I playing like a VR conductor, I was like, wow, when I do this types of things, right? And then I saw like
Yeah.
it's like a giant, like a nuclear bomb, but just like when I did it right, it's just like the visual cue is too much. But it's
Yeah.
really interesting. For example, like I saw the trailer. It's like a Game of Thrones, and
Uh,
everybody wear those types of like the costume, and everybody play. And it's like a surrealism because in VR you can be so creative. And I mean, for me, I couldn't it being VR for more than 40 minutes.
right.
But when I play that game, I play straight like 2 hours because it's just so fun. And I also learned some basic like conducting hand gestures. Just for some reason, maybe it's muscle memory. So I think it's really like I think that game was like a wow. Who can think of that and using meta hand gestures and create such a good education material. So I,
Yeah.
I I think like a gamification definitely is like the really really good way for a beginner to start. But I think if you want to master it, you probably still need to find a real human expert to help you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I that's the beauty of virtual reality experience, that you can break a lot of walls and limitations that usually cannot be achieved in, say, this reality world. Um, like the one you were just mentioning, the maestro uh
Yeah.
conducting experience. I really like that because like when you're talking about uh you're jumping into different space, and then you have different kind of unrealistic cues or events are happening that cannot be achieved in the real time. I think it's a very good example that what VR can achieve. Another example I can think of is like there's like a VR golf experience.
Mm.
So usually when you are playing golf in the real world, there's like a lot of limitation. Like depends on like the gravity, so the landscape of the space. So there are a lot of limitation. But what if I know this experience that can just take you to like Mars? So what if you can play golf in Mars, which have
Mm.
different gravity
Oh.
than the
Mhm.
Earth, and then they'll have different kind of that kind of change everything. So make the
Mm.
whole game more interesting and more challenging. Depends on different factor that it's really hard or very expensive for us to achieve in the real world. Like no one's going to play golf in Mars right now because it's so expensive. Anyway, but yeah, I think this is like that's the beauties of virtual reality. It can just like give you a lot of like freedom to explore things that you can actually achieve that in real life.
Yeah, and besides, like we said that the conducting manifesto and also the golf, you also work on the immersive like a experience for sound, like a Van Gogh, right?
Yes.
How does that music need to be to achieve, like for example, you immerse in Van Gogh's painting?
So for the Van Gogh experience, it will be a very different approach. So for example, the Price of Free that I was working on, they are more driven into like a realism. So making sure that every objects around you touch or interact with have a realistic audio feedbacks to make you feel like you are in a real space. But for the Van Gogh experience, they wanted to approach it in a more artistic way. So that kind of opens up a lot of doors. So I remember there is a scene that basically experience just about Van Gogh reciting a letter of his like emotional flows, depends on different mood he's having, and that change will change the whole environment, for example, from one painting to another with different styles. And that is definitely a surreal artistic experience. So the way we approach is just like instead of giving like a more realistic transitions, like change of the papers or change of the sound of wing, we kind of just give it like a music cue to just do the transition in a more like abstracts and more like artistic. We kind of just elaborate even more on what is going on in the screen. So yeah, it's a very interesting uh perspective and different approaches. I believe that the virtual reality world, it all depends on what you want to achieve as a design goal or what's your vision you want the audience to experience, and just work with that and just based on that premise and make it even better. Um, so yeah, but the Van Gogh one is definitely more artistic driven, and that kind of works because people don't really get inside the experience expecting this will be in a real space. So adding that kind of freedom helps them even enjoy the experience even more.
Wow. So yeah. So for example, Van Gogh is famous for his super emotional painting stroke, right? And he himself was like also cutting his own ears, like doing some extremely stuff. So his entire emotion, like through the painting, is already super strong. Plus the music, it will make people like totally inside um Van Gogh's like a head or like, like it's just like a make the emotional like a compound effect. Yeah. So like plus
Yeah.
like a very emotional music. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy working that project. It just gave me a lot of artistic freedom to approach this materials, and I got really lucky to be able to write some music cues to help them to enhance that experience to make it even more artistic.
Wow. So yeah, so you mentioned like we start with like like the game, right? Game development, game design, and talk about like the creators, right? How AI can enhance or like help composers creating pipeline. And also we talk a lot about like for example your recent project, how can we merge the visual into the like a immersive space plus like a very emotional music, right? So maybe we can come back to like the question that what's your journey of being where you are today? Like how can you create such an amazing work? For example, like you have a lot of great insights and what's like your life that makes you where you are right now today? Yeah.
So as I mentioned, I grew up in Taiwan. I was classically trained in piano as a kid, and in college, I decided to join this music composition student clubs, and I started to write music on my own instead of playing music from the past, like from like Mozart's or Beethoven's or those classic masters. And I just decided to write my own music, and I really enjoy it. And then join some workshop. I was very fortunate to be able to follow one of the existing established composers in Taiwan and write music for a lot of film scoring after I graduate. Um, so that gave me a lot of experience on how to approach music and how to write music that it can influence the emotions in like more like a linear formats, like in commercials, in films, also in theater, traditional theaters. But after working for several years, I just have this questions like how audio can be different than just following the timeline. Because in those existing traditional media, you basically just have there's a timeline, you just fit the music inside and then just make it work. But I think there is definitely more than just that. So I decided to wanted to explore a little bit more than the linear audio experiences. So that's when I decided to came to the United States to have a master's degrees in entertainment technology at Carnegie Mellon University. So in the program, it's all about collaboration with different people in different disciplines. So we have students that are software engineers. We have people who works as creative designers, or they are experienced designers or 3D models, and we all come together and figure out a projects together. We are building interactive experience. We are building video games. We are building anything that it's about entertainment industry. So that gave me a lot of opportunity to collaborate with them and understand where they're coming from and understand their language, and at the same time using my backgrounds as an audio designer and composer to explore the possibility of interactive audio and music design and for this type of like interactive media. And after I graduated from school, I was very lucky to be able to working with several VR company. That was the time where VR was about to thrive. So then I joined the company to work on like the price of freedoms and become their audio directors and being the one who define and explore that how audio should or would could behave or could be in like a virtual reality space. And since then, I got a lot of different opportunities. I work with different companies. They are building up virtual reality games. They are building up documentaries in virtual realities, and also the physical immersive venues, the Van Goghs, the 29 room, the Mirage experiences, and that all lead me to where I am now, just like using audio as a tool to tell a better story, to immerse the audience, to have a better engaging experience from different kind of media.
Wow. So you mentioned that you start with like a classic training, right, in Taiwan, and then later on you work, and later on you come to United States and start working with multidiscipline people and start seeing the possibility beyond those, the classic training. And same as me, when I was in Taiwan, I was more like doing art, and I understand, like the interesting thing in I don't know right now, but when I was study in Shida, 美术系, yeah. So it's like a National Taiwan Normal University art,
Yeah,
yeah. So when I was study design, we were focusing on creating poster. And design is more than poster design. So I also have the same question like you were like, how can I do music beyond timeline, right? And my question is like, how can I do design beyond poster?
yeah,
Beyond
right.
is like such a, you can do web design, you can do a lot of different practical, you can do package, you can do book, but for some
Yeah,
reason,
yeah,
in my department, it's only poster, and we are trying to get a lot of award. I was like, what's the point? Like, and
right.
when I was doing the fine art painting, I
Yeah,
just realized that, well, anybody buy it. And I asked my professor. My professor said that, oh, in Taiwan's like fine art kind of like a status is that there are a lot of seats, and it's all people, all professor
yeah,
sitting there, and you need to wait for someone to die.
yeah, yeah.
Eh, so
It's
there's
super
an
tough.
empty
Yeah,
seat. You need to, so you have the seat. I feel like that's very uninspiring.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, same. Yeah, same in the music industry. I feel like because either you'll be like composer for like a orchestral piece, or you are a composer for film, but those are very established industries. So
Mm,
there are very existing pipelines or existing tasks. You just need to follow them. You don't really question much. Maybe that's just my experience, but I feel like people don't really like to push the boundary back home, and I don't really have a lot of freedom to explore different possibilities and different sound I want to achieve. And I think that's the reason that kind of pushed me to come to the States and just trying to explore, because here people they encourage you to try different things. And especially in this like video games or interactive field, it's
mm.
kind of like relatively new compared with film industries or like theater industry. So there are a lot of uncharted territory. Like nobody really know what is the SOP or what is actually the pipeline to make things better. Because it's really depends on the projects. Like different projects have different needs and different design goal they want to achieve. So there is no like one single answer to everything. It's not one size fits all solution. You always have to come up with your own ideas, and that idea might fit to the project, that might not, but it's the trying part that make it exciting, and you always learn new things, and that's how you grow as an artist, um, to be better at your skills, and then just, yeah, keep pushing.
Yeah, and I noticed that the education, right, in Taiwan and in
Yeah,
America is totally different.
it's very
Where
different.
yeah, yeah. So I have the same thinking like you. It's like when I was in Taiwan, I was like, design is like making posters, right? You
Yeah,
only have a canvas and you design. But when I came to art center, I was like, wow, you have entertainment design, you have product design, you have like a car design, right?
yeah,
And you have graphic design is like a branding and also tied to business, right? So I feel like, yeah, it's like open my eyes, and I'm fortunate to graduate and yeah, and stay here and got visa and stay here.
yeah,
So yeah, so my question for you is that you see like the liberal of like a USA, and
yeah,
also what do you see, for example, like the music, right? What do you see, for example, like a VR music? It is like a very good in entertainment and potentially like a enhance the experience. What do you see that how can for example right now AI is such a the tools that everybody goes tools. For example, for me, I just like doing Suno and
yeah.
hope there's some songs that can pop to a scream that I like, because every time when I describe it, it's
Yeah.
just like, wow, this is so off, and I have to keep twisting. And I was like, "Oh, can you just please stop here?" And it just keep playing. And I was like, "Oh, wow, it's very hard to control all this." And how do you see that? How can you harness AI, and also how can you, for example, for example, um, the AI create? How can you work with AI and make AI part of your music? Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said before, I don't really use AI as my end products, as my end, yeah, music deliverables. I use it as a way to inspire my creativities and pipeline. So they are maybe just at the ideation process that can help me to think of see how things work in a more effective or efficient way to see the result without me trying too much. But that being said, whenever I give the prompts or descriptions, I already have like a basic idea in mind that what I want to achieve. Just thinking about AI as a intern that you hired to help you to do some basic work. Um, so that's that. I don't really hand my creativity to AI and just ask AI to surprise me. Everything that I had is mostly under control, so I know what I'm exactly going to get at, and I those are the materials that I'm going to use as the source materials or as the elements that I can just elaborate on, if that makes sense. It's like for music we're talking about editing AI music is like difficult, or it is not really hard, easy, not easy for you to harness that part. I think that might not be a new problems because we have this production music from the past. So library music, they are a bunch of like library music on a production company. They give you like 1 minute long of this emotion, and maybe they can be 30 minutes long, 1 minute long, or longer. So the way that it works is that you have to grow off that experience, or skills, to actually make a more generic audio or music cues to fit into your context, right? So how you're going to edit them or rethink about the goal you want to achieve, editorial choices, those are just have to you have to back and forth practice and to actually use those material as the source to achieve that the music piece that you wanted to do. So yeah, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, and for example, like I usually like to describe, for example, visual things,
Yeah.
food and music. For example, like when my student create a game, right,
Mhm.
and then I would tell them, I think music is the same.
Yeah.
Like oh, for example, when you eat salad,
Yeah.
if there's only, the plain, lettuce, right? And just like a one sauce, it just feels very plain. But if you add some walnut, if you add
Yeah.
something, and sometimes you chew, sometimes the flavor is strong, sometimes the flavor is not so strong. It
Right.
will make the salad experience really good. For example, like a game. There's always some, at the beginning you want to tell an interesting story, so
Yeah.
at the beginning, you probably need to slowly get into not like a just like a. I know Beethoven, the song is like a dun 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 dun. It's like a just like give you like such a strong impression. But the normal game is like at the beginning tell you a little bit background, and then uh right after it's just like there's some tragedy happens. So people,
Yeah.
or like some big things that happen. So people will be drawn into. So for music creation, or for example, like for game, what do you like separate the different types of like things, and how do you what's your pipeline for trying to create the different flavor textures of the game? And for example, like a MIDI or some different things, how do you make sure like the interesting music textures can be implemented in the right place?
You're talking about the interactive music, is that no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
So, well, if we are talking about interactive music uh, uh, techniques to kind of navigate the experience, like to just kind of reflects on the audio cue that you wanted to the audience to get when they are performing certain behaviors. Uh, so there are two very common techniques for interactive music composition. One is called vertical remixing, and the other one is called horizontal resequencing. So the ideas of vertical remixing is that you have different layers with harmony, melodies, and textures, and that can be like fading out, fading in, depending on what's happening on what's happening the player is doing. And they all share the same core progression structure, so they can fade in, fade out, so it doesn't really affect anything. It's just like the intensity level, or different kind of textures. Maybe this part is played by a violin, but then when you want the emotion to be like more intense, and there'll be like a more intense instrument to jump in, like that. That is one technique. And the other one is called horizontal resequencing. It basically just break the music into different section that can be looped, extend, or transitioned. So it's naturally based on in their interaction. Like for example, in say RPG games, the characters in the game might be would just like walk around exploring, and that'll be different kind of game state. Wow, depends on where the character is at. So typical example will be like the music will be switching back and forth from exploration, alert, battlings, and those are different kind of emotional state. And using that horizontal resequencing, you can just fade in and fade out in different sections. So it kind of guide the player's emotional flow with the different kind of compositional structures, and they don't necessarily have to share the same core progression, but they just like kind of migrate from one to another, either like going a little bit more or going a little bit less in real time based on the player's actions in real time. And there are software that can help you handle those different approaches. We There's two main one that is more well known. Um, one is FMA, the other is Wise. So those are audio middleware. They help to handle the interactivities of audio behaviors. So you can set different states for it's like a trigger. So you can just put the set that states inside the audio middleware and connect with the game engines like in Unity to Unreal. And when that state happens, for example, you want the game engine to decide. So this is actually from the player from exploration states into the alert state, and you just give them a line of code, and you just the system will just handling for you. They just give you that smooth transition that you set up in the audio middleware. So yeah, that is one way. And I know Unreal now they also have want to develop their in-house audio tool. It's called Meta Sounds. They also help to handle this kind of interactive audio behavior to make the interactive audio experience even more, um, even more intuitive.
Wow. Yeah, I know Unreal has a lot of like more for triple A games, right? And
Yeah,
I think Unity is more like I would say it's a very loud and very I would say the community build and resource.
yeah,
There are a lot of tutorials in Unity, very similar to Blender versus Maya. Maya is
yeah,
more like a professional, right? And the Blender is more like for everybody since it's open source. Same as the Unity. I think Unity is more like oh, you can do mobile, you can do film, you can do VR, you can do almost everything. It's very open, and there's a community built on top of it. Unreal, I feel like, for example, if you want to do something in Unreal, you need to be in that specific place or you need to get a specific training. Unreal, I don't know, maybe I seldom Google Unreal. So that's why I feel like Unreal feels a little bit very similar to Maya. It's very a little bit classy or being there. There's some walls to protect, but as far as I know, it's very designer or non-coder friendly. They have like some like some coding system that without code you just link the knots. And
yeah.
now you mentioned, yeah, the sound. I think Unreal doing a lot of like tell us to the experts and make the like the triple A games. Yeah.
Yeah, they have this their own system. Unity definitely have a huge community, and they have a lot of custom script. It's easier to just write custom scripts, and then a lot of people share it. So we actually also write custom scripts for our interactive audio behavior for the price of freedom experience. So like interaction, television sound, we have the system to detect the material of the objects, and it can just automatically assign them to the music folders that store those material sounds. And then we will have different type of intensity level from like low, mediums, and high, and depends on how strong the collision force is collided with each other. You'll trigger different type of like audio files to respond to the level of intensity, the intensity that was happening. And on top of that, we also have that, pitch variation system. So just to make sure that each time the audio cue is triggered, it'll be slightly different than the previous one is played. So that making sure like the whole audio experience is rich enough, it's diversified enough to, create more like diversity of the like more rich sound experience.
Wow. So, you mentioned that coding, right?
Yeah.
Do you code or you use vibe code? And also, the interesting thing that I noticed is that I had a friend. I have a couple of friends that they are composer. He Michael Williams. I forgot his last name, but He is a well-known composer. His name is also on Wikipedia, and he is also a really good developer. He told me that coding and music, play music is actually the same. And I was like, I couldn't see the similarity. I was like, wow, I don't know, maybe I just learned piano in the early stage of my time and never really, continuing. What do you see coding and music if you code? Yeah.
Um, we were just talking about coding itself. I feel like reading code just like reading music sheet to me. So you can just like for music sheets from left to right and just see the sequence, and the code will be like top down. So like to this at this time you'll see the flow, like the computer flows from this to
Oh, it's like a music
there's
sheet.
a
You need to keep
yeah.
reading. Oh, and it's
So you have the context, and so there's a for loop. So that means you have to repeat it several times, and then you have to break up the loop. So I definitely see there's some similarities between the two, and that's why I think it's easier for me to learn how to code on my own because it's very intuitive. And in terms of coding my audio behaviors in gaming, I do a little bit of that. A lot of them actually using the audio meter will help me save a lot of time to design those audio behaviors because those middleware can help you handle most of the part. You just have to use um integrate it into the game engine. So when the event happen, you just call out that line of code. Say, so when this happen, execute this code, and the audio meter will just help you to execute it without like lines of code to make it happen.
wow. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you have a software, right? And you probably just put some simple code and make it work. Same as Unity. I personally don't think Unity is a hard code. Like I I I think a teaching front end development
Yeah.
versus teaching Unity is very different because Unity is more like, oh, I have a goal
Yeah.
to achieve. And I have different, things that I can do. For example, I can create character, I can animate it, I can create different things. Coding is just part of it.
Yeah.
So, which makes game development so fun is that
Hmm.
I think coding is just for the purpose of achieving your goal. It's one of the building blocks. It's not like everything is relying 100% on code, like a front end
Right.
development or back end.
Right.
It,
Hmm.
it, it's like a visual or like storytelling, emotional connected. So that's why I think teaching coding using Unity, it is really, really good because students sometimes they don't have motive to do coding, but when they think, oh, I need to finish that game, I need to make my character work, walk and do the animation. They start having like some motivation. So I think that's why I think Unity is very good. And also vibe coding, for example, like sometimes for the knots, right? I was doing some texture thing in the past or like trying to do some 3D stuff. um, I just feel like, wow, the knots, it's very hard unless you are the expert. Sometimes it's very hard to link to the right, and sometimes I would got stuck in the knots. So I think it's just code is just like such a flexible ways to customize things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think Unity is a great way to learn how to code, and then you got that feedback. You can just it's object-oriented coding, so you can just see how the things you are coded with like just when you play it and you just know how it looks like, and you can make modification. I think it's a fun way to learn how to code for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So how do you get your inspirations when everyday work? I know some artists that they would go into, for example, eat breakfast and
Yeah.
they draw something on the napkins and so later on when they after they die, they have a lot of weird things and to display. How do you capture? Because I know a couple of like composers the reason why I get into game from like a graphic design was because I joined a game jam. Yeah,
Oh.
and that changes my life. Before I was like, ah, I feel like my life is more like an illustrator. I did some, the maybe some illustration book or something, but after that, I just like, oh, I want to learn code because it's so powerful. Yeah, so and I learned like a lot of my composer friends. They just have like, for example, like iPhone. And
Yeah.
sometimes in the meeting, for example, I have some meetings with before I was helping my composer friend doing some website stuff.
Yeah.
And he will start saying, "Oh, I have a lyrics," and he starts singing and start recording. It's like how do you capture, like those like inspirations as part of your like inspiration for music?
I think, yeah, good things about me living in your city. There are just so many inspirations. I just walk on the street, there'll be artists playing on the streets, and we have so many museums and musicals and theaters. It's like a city full of artists, and they just get never short with having the inspirations, so like things going on, and that kind of helped me to reflect on myself and just expose myself to something new I never thought about. And a part of up like on top of that, I also enjoy walking. Like whenever I'm walking, I'm meditating, and then something sometimes things just pop into your mind out of nowhere, and just yeah, I just have to like they will sometimes come as your least expected time. So that's why I enjoy just like being like active and walking around, and that helps me a lot. I think, yeah, so to answer your questions, like meditating or getting a lot of resources or inspiration from the outside, trying to appreciate other people's stuff, and then just put yourself out there to embrace something that you're not familiar with helps me for my creative process.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Because every time, for example, like recently I was delivering my VR like a turning one professor's curriculum into a VR game. And the professor gave me feedback, was like, this is so complicated. I don't know how to use it because the interesting thing is that my background, I work for a tech company,
Mm,
and also I work for Meta. So everybody, when I deliver something, everyone knows how to teleport.
yeah,
Everyone knows how to use controller because I live
yeah,
inside my bubble.
right,
And later on, when I deliver to somebody who she purchased the headset during the Black Friday and said that, oh, I need to get a Costco plan because I might return. Those, those types of like they were suspicious about VR and had never, haven't used it. And then,
right,
yeah, I got a lot of revision and I started rethinking about like, wow, yeah, why I made like a tutorial set. And if people couldn't even remember which button, how can I make things such an easy way? And I was like, I have a tutorial. I've seen one, seen two, and then it's a like 11 minutes experience. And later on, she mentioned that, oh, maybe you can cut this out. I don't need this. I don't want to interact because if I don't trigger the thing that you expect, I will stuck there. So that's why I was like, how can I make the thing so good? So that's why it's also good to do VR because I can play VR game as part of the skills and also
yeah,
the as the research. And then I start, going out for a walk or a hike because in San Francisco we have a lot of mountains.
yeah,
So go to hike and every time when I start thinking about some good idea, it's never in front of my desk. It's
mhm,
always outside of my desk because in my desk I will look at the existing stuff and stuck in. But when I go out, I was like, oh yeah, I can cut this, I can cut that. And later on, I was like, wow, last night I was like, actually, I figured it out and I can quickly deliver. And I just like realized that how important that you need to give yourself a empty space. Even though we are all hard worker, but I think it's sometimes resting. And I learned that when you go sleep, your brain actually is trying to solve the problem you couldn't solve in the morning. So it's so important to sleep a lot. For example, like if you kind of stuck in something, don't try to force it overnight. go to sleep, your brain will solve for you, and when you wake up, you will figure it out. So
I
yeah.
100% agree with you, Zach. Sometimes I got the creative blocks. I'll just go to the gym, and then after a few, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they got unsolved. I got they got resolved. So that's a good practice for me too. And I want to echoing back what you just mentioned is about people who don't know how to use VR. Actually, we had a very interesting experience while I was at Carnegie Mellon University. So there's a course called Building Virtual Worlds, BVW. So we are basically just rapid prototyping and create a lot of different video game experience with different platforms. And VR was one of the platforms that we are using to as an assignment. And we have this round that pretty much just tell us that you cannot give any instructions. And you'll when your project is being tested, they will ask they called it a naive guest. So who doesn't know, it's like not tech savvy, they don't know anything about VR, but you just give it to them and then you don't give them any instruction
Oh,
to
it's like
see how they do.
accessibility, something like
Yeah, and then we learn a lot from that experience because simply you thought your design is very intuitive, but
yes.
so it's not. It's like you have to constantly think about user experience and how to navigate, how to guide the guests or the audience to a certain behavior that you want your as a designer want them to do. I remember this one video games, VR games that the team spent a whole 2 weeks to develop this like amazing world with like beavers and like different creatures around, and then you have like very fun, cute tasks they need to achieve with the time uh limit string. But then when they got presented on the stage, they asked a person doesn't know anything about VR. So they were just standing there getting very confused, like, oh, what am I going to do? What's happening? And then the time goes by and then none of the feature was presented because the audience the person doesn't know what to do.
Mm.
And turns out every amazing thing was behind them and the player doesn't know how to turn around.
Oh, yeah.
So because of that, just like nothing got no, no. So they got the really bad grades, but that's a lesson. Like they learned the lesson in a very hard way.
Mm.
So there are a lot of different ways to help the audience or the guests to turn their attention to something, focusing on things that's more important to them. Those are either like audio cues or visual cues that just you don't give an instruction, but naturally they just gravitate towards that more important elements that you wanted to focus on. So it's just like there's one of the example that constant play testings, and I think the best play tester is probably the grandma that doesn't know anything. And if
Yeah.
they can figure out how to do it, then it's a success for you.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that before I think I was living in my own bubble. I
Yeah.
saw like everybody knows how to teleport, because like everybody around me are all gamers.
Right. Right.
So that's why I didn't even realize. Wow, because she said that I want to grab that, and I keep bumping into my wall, and I was
Right.
like, no, I don't want you to hurt yourself. And I even, we do Zoom, and I even
Right.
teach
Right.
her to cast her screen on the Zoom. So that's why I can fully help her. But she still having trouble. And I keep telling myself, wow, this is not really accessible. So
Right.
I thought my design was accessible. But it's interesting that she changed my mind. She just told me, Dom, you couldn't assume people knows how to use controller. Yeah, and
Exactly.
I was like,
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I was like, well, because sometimes I say, hey, grab button, hey, trigger button, hey, joystick. But for people who just first time using controller, they will say, which one is joystick? They keep doing press everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I really appreciate that experience. So that's why I was like, let's not having grab button and trigger button separate. Let's just use like whatever the biggest one and
Yeah.
make it work.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a good lesson to learn for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's very, very interesting. So yeah, so I'm currently in the more like a education field. So do you have any advice, for example, if someone who wanna, because your, job career is very interesting, somebody, just a recent graduate might wanna, work on something that you are currently work on. Do you have any advice for the younger generation, especially right now, AI? Everybody was like, "Well, Suno already can do it. What should I do that?" And I have a lot of students are confusing, like, I'm coding, vibe coding. AI
Yeah.
can code better than me. It seems like AI is taking a lot of, median job already. So, or intern job. So what's your advice if somebody, like a young age, like a 20, wanna be someone like you? Like, what's your advice right now?
I think connections is important. I will suggest that, or I think it's a good idea to attend a lot of the events. For example, like you mentioned, the Game Jam events,
Mm.
where all the people come together and um, just work on something together. And as an audio input, you can just provide. It's a good practice for you to know what industry is feel. It feels like when you're working with different people in different disciplines and understanding their language and know how to communicate each other. I think AI is a great tool for sure to help you to, expedite your process. But at the end of the day, you still need a human to supervise the outcomes of the result. So that, keep the gatekeeper is important. So I think, the future will be somebody. I think many people have mentioned this before, but I just wanted to say again that in the future it will be people it will be more like people who know how to use as their sorry people know how to use AI as their tools. You'll help them to grow even faster than people who doesn't know how to use AI, because AI will be there, and it will definitely not replace human beings, but will make human being, able to fly, I say. So just use that and just make it as your tool as than your enemy.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, so yeah, same as like right now in education. I am also like I currently teach community college, HR professor, and also I am one of the AI fellows in Chancellor's office in California community colleges.
Yeah.
So right now we have like a AI policy, like a lot of professor has like no AI, right? And I will
Right.
do like a AI detection. If you do I will give you zero grade because you're against the honesty or, like in
Right.
some things. So yeah, so we have a lot of debate, but I think I agree with what you said that AI is here and AI is like a tool, right? And we need to solve a bigger problem, such as we see there are so many games on Steam, Xbox,
Right.
even Meta Quest. But the killer game, the best game, the game that people want to play again and again, or the movies, there are not a lot of like outstanding one. And for example, there are a lot of apps on Apple Store, App Store, that I consider to be digital trash, which means that nobody download, nobody needs, right? So
Right.
I think a
Right.
product market fit, like solving users' real problem, or like trying to create a really good experience, right? Tell a really good story. I think AI can average out all the data points, but
Mhm.
it really, for example, if you want to have, let's say, personal experience, like culture, for example, you mentioned Taiwan is education, and I can resonate immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what AI couldn't really tell these types of like a personal experience because AI didn't really live there, doesn't feel the soul resonate, right? It's like, oh, yeah, it's like more like a average out everything. So how can you integrate your personal experience into something that may make people feel about it, make people understand and emphasize people, right? So I think so that's why even like coding, and recently I read a news, it's in Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
It says that company currently are seeking for storyteller
Mhm.
for their job positions. I think you see, like there are a lot of LinkedIn posts written by AI. You can
Right.
immediately spotlight, and I
Right.
use AI a lot. But I think the one that I find out the most liked for my post is that when I put my personal experience in and people can feel, oh, this is written by human, I can feel it. So I think those like ability to have people feel like it's authentic storytelling. I think it's very important. Same as music, same as art, visual, everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
A good audio design or a good music composition is not just giving you a very catchy tunes. They're actually more complicated than that. If you are trying to achieve something bigger, like for example, I'm working on this immersive theater project at the moment, and we have different characters running around in the space, and it gave each characters a like signatures sound, and they kind of interact with each other while they physically interact with each other. So just giving them a tune is not enough. I mean, AI might be able to come up with a very beautiful melody line, but they don't know the essence of combining them together. So there are just like 1,000 type of different possibilities that when different cues or different kind of uh signature collide with each other, and that's how human supervision comes in, because we are the one who know how to define those moments and how that transcribe to our human experience, and that's the precious things that I don't think I can replace for now. And so yeah, I think in terms of like a bigger scope, if you wanted to achieve something that is bigger than just something like a beautiful image or a beautiful tune in front of you, or just like a tools that, you know, AI write the code or something. We as a human definitely are looking for something that is more profound, more bigger than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I heard one of the speakers said that AI can solve our everyday. We feel comfortable, right? We are with the
Right.
ants, right? We feel comfortable, things repetitive, and
Yeah.
AI can do that. But you see, like there are so many big problems that haven't solved, like a war. How can
Yeah.
you stop the war, right? How can you make a culture between cultures they understand each other? They can
Right.
shake hands with each other, right?
Right.
Famine, right? A lot of people doesn't have good food.
Right.
A lot of people doesn't get a good education, right? And
Mhm.
also we have energy, crisis, or
Right.
AI, right? We have a lot of things, and climate change. We have a lot of things that currently human cannot solve, and maybe AI can. Human plus AI, maybe we can help. So we can, let go of our everyday chore, right? Washing machine, dishwasher, right? All those can leave us up to do something even bigger. So same as AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree
Absolutely.
with you.
Totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. So what's the one thing that you still like to share that we haven't touched on yet?
So, like, I want to share more of the immersive theater projects that I'm working on. It's the Midnight Strings that it's kind of like a very revolutionary experience that combine the live theater experience, then combine live theater experience and those kind of video game like interactions and immersive experience. So it's a new kind of entertainment experience or venue that I hope it will become successful in the futures. And if you are interested, just stay tuned.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, feel free to share with me like the link or something. And once it's released, feel free to share with me, and I would love to
Absolutely.
share
Yeah, yeah.
with my audience.
Thank you so much.
Cool, awesome. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. We release episodes weekly. If you enjoyed this conversation, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Support us by giving us a follow and a 5-star rating, or subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you, and I will see you next time.